Colorado Avalanche Hockey on Altitude is brought to you by Dodge. See your local Dodge dealer and experience a world of performance, design, and fuel efficiency. Or go to Dodge.com and check out our powerful lineup. Old Chicago, with 36 beers on tap and pizza so good that it's in the name. Experience the pizza and craft beer authority. Old Chicago Pizza and Tap Room. And by Chevy. Stop into your Colorado Chevy dealer today to learn about the Chevy Silverado. Strong for all the roads ahead. Big game tonight for the Avalanche. They take on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and what a night it is for Alex Tanguay. His 1,000th NHL game. And his son, Samuel, he is the Avalanche stick kid, the youth skater tonight. And there he is, along with Alex Tanguay. Maybe a future NHLer for Samuel Tanguay.
Talking to Alex yesterday, and he was saying Samuel was so nervous. He was getting himself ready. He was said, don't worry, Dad, I'm not going to fall. He is pumped for this game.
All right, what a night. And a chance for a ceremony to celebrate Alex Tanguay. Let's listen in to Alan Roach, the public address announcer for the Colorado Avalanche.
Ladies and gentlemen, Avalanche fans, tonight we honor an exceptional player who will skate in his 1,000th NHL game this evening. Born in Quebec, Canada, Alex Tanguay was drafted by the Avalanche in the first round, 12th overall, in the 1998 NHL entry draft. Tanguay played in his very first NHL game with the Avalanche in 1999. Over the course of his 15-year career, which included time in Calgary, Montreal, and Tampa Bay, he scored 269 goals, recorded 544 assists, and amassed 813 total points. He was a key contributor in helping the Avalanche win 5 division titles and the 2001 Stanley Cup Championship. Now, direct your attention to Pepsi Vision for a special video presentation.
Alex Tanguay is the first pick of the Colorado Avalanche, a guy who played for Canada's World Junior team.
Halifax Mooseheads, Alex Tanguay.
This had to be the guy that they wanted the most.
He's one of those guys that just gets the job done.
On 500 assists in the NHL. Number 40, Alex
Joining Alex on the ice for tonight's ceremony is his wife, Ellen, his daughter and sons, Maya, Blake, and Samuel. And now, here to present Ellen with flowers on behalf of the Avalanche organization, Captain Gabe Landeskog. Gabe is also presenting Alex with a custom engraved watch from all of his teammates. Now, please welcome to the ice Vice President of Hockey Operations for the National Hockey League, Jim Gregory. Jim is presenting Alex with a Tiffany crystal on behalf of the league. Thank you, Mr. Gregory. And finally, here to present Alex with the traditional silver stick in recognition of playing in 1,000 NHL games, please welcome another member of the 1,000 games played club, Alex's former teammate and line-mate during the 2001 Stanley Cup Finals, Milan Hajduk. Congratulations, Alex Tanguay, on 1,000 games played in the NHL.
So well deserved. What a nice ceremony for a very, very special player, Alex Tanguay. The Avs will always remember scoring that game-winning goal against New Jersey. We'll be back with the start of tonight's game in a moment. Avalanche and the Pittsburgh Penguins as the Avs will welcome in Sidney Crosby and company. Why don't we take a look at the Ford starting lineup? And here is the goaltending matchup for tonight.
This is a tremendous matchup. Mike, as it is so often now in the National Hockey League, so many good goaltenders. But Marc-Andre Fleury, Mike, he's won a Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins in 09. He took them all over his finals the year before in 08. And the last couple of years, he's had his tough times in the playoffs. But this year, he has been rock solid. Looking for his 30th win tonight. He has 8 shutouts, most in the National Hockey League. So the Avalanche will have to be sharp around him. At the other end, Semyon Varlamov, his 20th consecutive start for the Avalanche.
It'll be John Mitchell taking the face-off for the Avalanche. Sidney Crosby for the Penguins. And Crosby pulls the puck back into the pen zone, and we are underway. Second time these teams have met this season, earlier in Pittsburgh on December 18th. It went to overtime, and hard to believe almost, these two teams who can score goals didn't have any in the first 60 minutes. And it was decided by a Blake Como goal in overtime, and the Pens won it 1-0. Passed out towards center ice. Blocked, kicked back in. Stolen away by Tanguay, but came out of the zone. Offside called on the Colorado Avalanche.
Mike had a chance to talk with Patrick Roy before tonight's game just about, how well he thought his team played last game. Obviously, a 3-1 loss, Mike, was devastating to the club. But he loved how they competed. And I think the players, to a man, next day in practice, talking with them, Mike, really enjoyed, one, the game, not the outcome, but two, how they played.
Coming after the puck, Jan Hayden. He's behind the net. Moves through the near face-off circle. Long pass out to center for Jerome McGinley, who spent a little bit of time in a Penguins uniform. Go back around, cut off by McGinley, plays it behind the net. Duchesne reverts it around. You'll see in front of the net in the Pittsburgh zone, number 27 for the Avalanche, and that is Jordan Caron, Peter, and a former first-round pick of the Boston Bruins. Picked up by the Avs on the trade deadline day.
Yeah, sort of later in the trade deadline time. Max Talbot goes to the Boston Bruins with Paul Carey, and the Avalanche get back Jordan Caron and a 6th-round pick. Why did they get Caron, Mike? He's younger, obviously, than Max Talbot, and big. He's a big, strong forward that they hope that little change of scenery. Maybe you get pigeonholed as being a one type of player in Boston to come here and get an opportunity to show what you can really do.
Ryan O'Reilly dashing out to center ice. Play broken up by the Pens. Picked up, pass ahead for Landeskog coming down the middle. Nice pass, the shot, the save made by Fleury. And we'll have a face-off in the Pittsburgh zone.
Well, good movement, good passing by the Avalanche. Landeskog does a nice job of finding McKinnon on the right side. Now McKinnon back on this top line, I guess, Mike, you could say, to start tonight's game. He was, you know, on a different line the last game against Minnesota to start, but played very well in that game against Minnesota.
Another new face to talk about. He's taking the draw right now, number 38 for the Colorado Avalanche. That is Joey Hishon playing his first regular season game ever for the Avalanche. He's playing 3 playoff games this past spring against Minnesota, but he's a first-round draft choice himself and has had to overcome some concussion situations, and the Avalanche are hoping that health is all set for him, and he was leading the Monsters in scoring when he got the call-up with 32 points in 50 games.
Mike, there are concussions in situations, and then there are situations, Mike, where your whole career is set upside down because of concussions. He was playing so well in junior, and then right near the end of his junior career, he had a concussion, and it set him back for, Mike, a whole year. He missed a whole season. And Mike, you do that with the concussions, Mike, you're coming back worrying about it. You got to get over that. But he has done a lot of things to get himself back, and this is his opportunity now to show that he belongs in the league.
Going to center the line with McLeod and Cleach. He's chasing. Rob Scuderi back into the Pittsburgh zone. Turns away, goes to the bench for a change. Long pass ahead for Hornquist. He's on a 4-game point streak for the Pens. Pass taken away. And Mitchell for the Avalanche slides the puck into the Pen zone. Delay offside. There's the whistle. Stoppage of play. Let's look at tonight's winning combo presented by Blackjack Pizza.
Well, as much as anything, Mike, you got to stop Crosby and Malkin. They're on tear right now. For Crosby, the last 4 games he's scored. Malkin, the last 5 games. He's had 3 points in each of the last 3 games. Malkin has, but staying alive for the Avalanche. They just got devastated last night. In the National Hockey League, Minnesota, LA, San Jose, and Dallas all won. All those clubs that are just ahead of the Avalanche.
Avs have the puck, passed off the skate of O'Reilly. Throws a pass ahead. McKinnon sprints in. That's broken up, taken away by Malkin. Puts the puck to the side of the net. Peter said Malkin on a 5-game point streak. 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in those 5 games. He has the puck. Dropped it off. Backhand across in the low slot. Blocked by O'Reilly. Flicks the puck out to center ice. And Letang backing up, makes a long pass that slides by Como. And deep into the Avalanche zone. Scooped up and carried out towards center ice by Barry. Pass the line. Duchesne gave it back. And a long pass. Caron takes a hit. And the puck that tipped up in the air out to center ice. Avs regain possession. Pass across the rink. Scoop. And sent out towards center ice by Pouliot. And shot in wide of Varlamov. 2 shots on net for the Avs. 1 for Pittsburgh. And the Pens have the possession at the center ice. They played nearly 4 minutes of hockey. Ben Lovejoy makes a pass across. He's one of a couple of players that were picked up on the trade deadline by this Pittsburgh team. Along with Ian Cole, who's traded by the St. Louis Blues. Lovejoy coming from Anaheim. 2nd time that he's been with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I think that was a big part of it. They liked how he played when he was there. He felt he was a younger player, and now he comes back as a far more mature. It's sort of, I don't want to say claim to fame, Mike, but you will remember the situation last year with Nate McKinnon. It was Lovejoy who hit Nate McKinnon in that very first game of the season, and Patrick Roy, and the infamous pushing of the net.
The glass, right?
The glass, pardon me. Mike Johnson, first-year coach. Mike had spent 6 years in the Portland Winterhawks. of the Western Hockey League, but longtime assistant with both Vancouver, LA, and has done a terrific job with this Pittsburgh club this year.
A play off the glass by Scuderi, out to center ice, then the chipped ahead by Bennett into the Colorado zone. Pass through the middle. We see Alex Tanguay on the ice, but Lovejoy stepped up, broke up the pass. Puck chopped up in the air, right at the blue line, pushed ahead by Hornquist. Crosby out on the ice for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's got the puck. His pass gets blocked. Reverse back around to the corner. Hayden sends it up and out. Lovejoy settles it down. And shoots the puck in around the boards. Slowed down by Varlamov. From behind the net, Zach Redmond. Long pass through the middle for Tanguay. Gets held as he came over the blue line. And the puck brought in, delay offside, and there's the whistle on the Avalanche. They're offside.
Well, just talking to the Colorado Avalanche players yesterday about Alex Tanguay and how he has played this year. You know, so much respect for Alex Tanguay. But, Mike, we do remember that young man came to the Colorado Avalanche. His first camp was in '98. He was a first-round pick, the first of 4 first-round picks they had in '98. And he said the number one thing he wanted to see, could I play in the league? Could I accomplish it? He said his first week of camp, terrible. Bob Hartley came in and said, thank God you're a first-round pick. I'd be sending you back to junior right now.
Letang with the puck for Pittsburgh. Lines it back in front. It pings back towards Letang. Rolls in the corner, being chased by Caron. Knocked down by Caron. Caron staying with him. The puck comes behind the net. Pens again with the puck. Pass towards the point. Comes out to center ice. Paul Martin sends it across. Sutter off the boards. Blocked at the line. Duchesne, pass ahead from Landeskog. Gives to McGinley, all alone in front. Duchesne, backhander, hit a skate. And the puck settled down by Daniel Winnick. Now, he didn't get picked up by Pittsburgh at the trade deadline, but that was another trade that the Pittsburgh Penguins made to get former Avalanche Daniel Winnick.
Yeah, there was so much talk that, you know, one of those players from the Toronto Maple Leafs, apparently the Toronto Maple Leafs are just going to be blown up over the course of the summer now. So much talk about trades, but Daniel Winnick, a very solid pickup for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were looking for some depth, like not in the top group, not in the top 6, but that next group of 6. And Winnick is a big guy, played well for the Colorado Avalanche when he was here, and has played very well for the Maple Leafs, and they were very happy to pick him up when they got him.
Malkin's line back out for Pittsburgh, taking the draw against O'Reilly. O'Reilly wins it. Back behind the net, and Barry dances away, makes the pass for McKinnon. Put to the near side by Lovejoy. Bounce back towards the red line and scooped up by McKinnon. He comes in, cuts the trailer. Barry turns and shoots. And a nice glove save made by Fleury because he had Landeskog right in front of him. No score in the first between the Pens and the Avs.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, for Alex Tanguay, we can remember how he came into the National Hockey League. And, Mike, he was a passing fool. And I used to get so mad at him for not shooting the puck more until I realized, you know what? This is just how he sees the game. And he has been an unbelievable player. When you watch him make plays on the ice, he is one of those few guys that can absolutely fool you with where he goes with the pass. I've talked to guys that have played with him on a regular basis, Milan Hajduk, Joe Sakic, Jarome Iginla. And they say, you've got to be ready all the time because somehow he is going to find you.
As you get to those great passes, you're able to see the ice and make plays that you don't expect. Crosby has the puck. Skating out to center ice and could not push it by Stewart and get to it. Meanwhile, the Avs counter the other way. Tanguay's got it. Pass down low. Mitchell pass in front, looking for a redirection from Everberg. Everberg comes up with the puck in the corner. Into the slot. Poke checked away. Everberg chases the puck down. Bounced it towards Mitchell. Tanguay's open. Pass in the slot. Everberg shoots, but it hit something and went wide of the net. Puck dug around. Well, the Avs having a good shift. Mitchell, Tanguay, Everberg keeping the puck in the Penguin zone. Tanguay skates into the corner with the puck, reverts it around. That gets cut off by Ian Cole. Swung out to center ice and carried in by Crosby. Checked by Hayden. Tanguay Launches the puck ahead, back into the Penn zone. Letang dropped it off the boards for Paul Martin to take. Slides it across for Letang. Pass broken up. Hishin went down to the ice, and the puck is smacked back into the Colorado end. Battle behind the net with the puck. Pens have got it. Bennett pushes the puck back into the corner. Gannon holding on to his man, Nick Spaulding. And Bennett again with the puck for the Penguins. He goes down to the ice. And the puck worked deeper into the corner for Max Lapierre. Around the board. Swung at, kept in. Shot gets blocked. And still with only one shot on net in the first 8.5 minutes. This is a team, Peter, that had 48 shots against the Avalanche when they met in December.
And the Avalanche are doing a nice job in the defensive zone. As usual, they're blocking some shots, but they have done a nice job defensively. And Mike, we haven't even noticed Crosby and Malkin to this point, which is obviously going to be a key.
Pass over the line, offside, Pittsburgh. And we got a whistle. No score in our first period.
Well, the line of Tanguay, Mitchell, Everberg, again, Mike, here tonight. And that, anytime you watch a line stay together as long as this line has, you know that Patrick Roy is happy with all aspects of their game. Offensively, they're creating some chances. Defensively, they're doing the job.
It really is an interesting mix, isn't it, Peter? You talk about three different styles of playing the game.
Yeah, guys coming from different places, different situations. You've got a first-round pick. You've got a guy that picked up as a free agent on his third club in Mitchell, played for Toronto, then New York Rangers, and now the Avalanche. Then you get a 22-year-old free agent from Sweden who made the club and then, you know, was sent down and back and forth and has really established himself now with the Colorado Avalanche. And, you know, you look at his numbers, Mike, night in, night out. And what you're looking for when you're a player is the consistency. And Patrick Roy will find him. You see that 11-27. Well, a lot of games early he didn't play much. He's consistently 13, 14, 15 minutes for the Avalanche since the last time he was called up.
At the point, Tyson Barrie pitchforks the puck towards the corner. Put off by Martin. Lobbed out to center. Barrie just got in the way because Malkin was behind him. If that puck had bounced through, that could have been dangerous for the Avalanche. From center ice, Como shoots the puck into the Avalanche zone. Penn still with only one shot during this first period. We're about halfway through the period. Put over the line by Ginla. Cuts wide. Puck behind the net. Gets slowed up. Pass through the middle. Play to the near side wing. And Steve Downey, for the former Avalanche, dipping the puck ahead to the corner. Punched up the wall. Lovejoy shoots, and Varlamov facing only his second shot in the period. And we'll be back. No score between Pittsburgh and Colorado.
Well, here's the Eastern Conference right now. And look at the right side, the Metropolitan Division. Now, you look at those numbers, Mike, you see obviously the Pittsburgh Penguins really in the mix. But let's go one step farther. Islanders have played 65. The Rangers 62. Pittsburgh 62. Washington 61. So Pittsburgh and the Rangers are the two clubs that have games in hand against the New York Islanders. So it's going to be a real battle. But when you look at all of those clubs, after the start they've had, the New York Rangers are the club that are just flying.
Well, they made a couple big splashes on trade deadline day, didn't they?
Are they all in or what?
Going for it this year.
This is, they have said, you know what? With Yandel, they have as slick a passing defense, and then you've got Lundqvist in goal. I mean, if you believe, as many people do, Mike, that it's defense and goaltending, and then scoring, that later, that when you cups, they've got a real chance. But let's look at this, Mike. This is something, and last night, Ovechkin and Baxter really upset me. If they hadn't scored anything last night, it would have been the top 7 players would have been separated by a single point. This is the closest the scoring race has ever been this late into the season. And I'll tell you, there are 10 guys that can win it.
A couple of them playing in tonight's game for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but so far we have not seen much offensively from either Crosby or Malkin. Only 3 shots total for Pittsburgh. It hasn't been Crosby or Malkin who've taken the shots. Scuderi with the puck. Long pass across. Carried to center by Cole. Deep and around the boards, and it didn't make a connection, so it is an icing call against Pittsburgh.
Well, for a long time, the Boston Bruins had the Norris Trophy locked up with Orr and Bork, but these guys in Pittsburgh have had the Art Ross Trophy, Mike, locked up for a long time, ever since Mario Lemieux moved into the league. He won it 6 times. Then Yager won it 5 times. It's kind of surprising that Crosby's only won it twice. It seems like he's won it more times than that. But the injuries have derailed him in a couple of seasons.
Shot save made by Varlamov, and no rebound allowed. That was a 3-on-2 break for Pittsburgh, but Varlamov gobbled that one up.
It's the first. It's a 3-on-2 break, but Gennon's coming back real hard. So it's basically a 3-on-3. That's the 2 defensemen back. Defensemen and forward slide across and really not give the man anything more than just a shot that he had.
Duchesne's line out for the Avalanche. Brandon Sutter taking the face-off for Pittsburgh. They have steal away the puck, carried up ice. 2-on-1. Caron trying to knock it out of midair, but couldn't do that. And Sutter chips the puck ahead. Backhanded in. Swatted around, off the shelf, cut off by Letang, who was pinned in from the point. The puck dragged back towards the corner by Pittsburgh. Winnick surrounded. Back to the point for Letang. Wouldn't go to his left with a pass. Put to the side of the net. Downey squeezed against the boards. Played by Winnick. Back to the point for Martin. He shoots through some traffic. Missed the net. Duchesne slugs the puck back behind the cage. And Redmond's got it for the Avalanche. Long pass out to center. That gets broken up. And Lapierre, chased by Duchesne, banged it behind the cage. Reverse back around. And the Avalanche have McLeod with a little forecheck pressure. Quick pass up the wing for Martin. Bounce out to center ice. And the puck will float wide of Varlamov. He'll wait, handle it behind the net. And Cleach gets hit by Bennett. And the pass gets knocked down, but played across by Cleach for McLeod. Out to center ice for Hitchens. Hitchens got it. He shoots off the side of the Pens net. And Bennett slides the puck, but gave it away. Barry stepping up. Poke checks away from him. Split up by Lovejoy. And a little chip sends the puck out to center. So I have 7 minutes, 20 seconds to go. In the first period, no score. Steal at center ice. Carried in by Crosby. Waits, pass, shot! Oh, boy. There's one of those Crosby passes that has made him such a dangerous player. Crosby again with the puck coming in. Waits. Holds on to the puck. His pass into the skate. But then backhanded around by Cole. That game for the Avs. Didn't get out of the zone. Cole kept it in. Bouncing puck. Finally settled down by Holden. Got it away before Crosby could get to the puck. Quick pass up ice for Everberg. Bounces back deep into his own zone. 6:30 to go in the first. Still looking for the first goal of the night. Out at center ice. Puck teed up by Martin. Slammed back in. Hops along to the near side. Malkin, handoff. Shot goes wide. Up the wall. Martin hustles. Keeps the puck in play. Pass behind the net for Como. Comes out in front. He shoots. That got blocked in front of the net. Stewart bounces the puck to center. We're going to see our first penalty of the game. It's going against Pittsburgh. Blake Como headed to the penalty box. And the Avalanche will get a power play.
Let's have a look at the penalty. Como just kind of reaches out and grabs number 29, Nate MacKinnon, right there. Just sort of knocks him down right there. But here's a Crosby pass, Mike. And I love that moment when you're not sure where a great player is going to go. Crosby had 3 things he could do. He could move the puck to the man in the middle, just go right through the seam to the man on the far side, or shoot.
Pittsburgh penalty.
That's what freezes the defensemen. That's what causes them to make mistakes. They have to make a decision. And the great players don't allow you to know what's going to happen.
If they have scored the power play, a lucky winner will get Avalanche tickets to an upcoming game, courtesy of American Lifestyle Furniture. For a chance to win, register at afwonline.com/altitude. after the puck. Blocked by Barry. Just one more point about that, Peter. You've said it many times. The great players also make passes that are hard. And what I mean by, I'm not talking difficult, I'm talking about speed, and that was a perfect example of what you've talked about a lot.
Oh, I mean, the hardest pass the Avalanche have ever had in here is Ray Bourque. He came in, he would explode it on your stick. But it taught everybody. The defenseman suddenly passed the puck harder. I mean, that is the whole key to moving the puck. It's got to be hard, it's got to be on the tape.
Avs are on the power play. Penalty on Como for interference. Called at 13:51. First power play chance of the game for the Avalanche, but a 2-on-1 developing the other way. Shorthanded. Winnick shoots, and the blocker save made by Varlamov, and that deflects out of play. So Varlamov came out and made the save on Winnick.
And Mike, when you're watching this, the reason why Winnick can walk in and make that shot, Mike, is that Holden right in this play trusts his goaltender. I'm taking away the pass. If the guy's on an angle, I trust my goaltender to make that save. And you don't come across, you don't rush the guy and give the pass to the guy on the far side that's going to force Varley to make a great move. Square him up and trust Varley, and that's what Holden did.
Made the right move, and Varlamov not only made the save, but he deflected the puck out of play. Avs still looking for their first shot on the power play. Duchesne will take it, and he missed. Bouncing puck in front of the net. Grabbed by Letang, popped it up. And the puck tipped up towards the point. Shipped away from Barry. Send the puck back into the Colorado end. And there's 15 seconds remaining in Como's penalty. Barry's pass taken by Landeskog through the neutral zone. Goes by Malkin. The puck given back to the Avs. Stewart spins. Makes the pass for O'Reilly. There's a chance for Barry. And a terrific save by Fleury as Como comes out of the box. But gave the puck back to the Avalanche. O'Reilly. Nice play by O'Reilly to stay with it. Shot goes wide. O'Reilly will chase the puck down. Back into the corner for Landeskog. Poke check from him, but chased by McKinnon. Put it into the corner. The puck up in the air. Grabbed by Landeskog. Back to McKinnon. Nice play. McKinnon in, and the shot gets blocked by Martin. The puck tipped out to center ice. Pass blocked by O'Reilly, who came into this game leading the NHL in takeaways. Pass up ice. Shot from zone by Hayda. That'll be icing called on the Avs.
And Tyson Barrie walking. Mike, where did this come out? That came out behind him. It went off the left pad. Watch the left pad of the goaltender, and it comes back through and behind. Fleury somehow got that puck to not go in and kicked it back with the far pad.
McGinley off the boards and out to center. Poked across the neutral zone. Shot from center ice by Perron. And the puck has gone out of play. So just over 3 minutes left to go in the first period. No score this game between Colorado and Pittsburgh. Time for Did You Know? Presented by Stevenson Automotive. Here's the question of the night. How many players have appeared in their 1,000th NHL game as a member of the Colorado Avalanche? Would it be C1, 5, C2, 8, or C3, 10? Text to 53548 for a chance to win an Avalanche prize pack.
I always love those kind of questions, Mike. How many guys, who scored their 500th goal with the Avalanche? There's always somebody in the group that you're like, really? That guy?
I know that.
I had
You and I
forgotten
saw that list today, and I went, really? Him?
Yeah, and because, you know, you forget that it's been so many years now for the Colorado Avalanche, Patrick Roy's club, and of course, when Patrick played and now the coach, and different things have happened, but there's always somebody that surprises you.
Oh, I know the name that most people are going to be surprised by. In the corner, Perron has the puck. He gets squeezed there by Barry, bounced off the check. Hooked it behind the net for Crosby to take, overskates the puck. Pass out to center, cut off by Hornquist. Down low, Perron centered into the slot. Bumped along the far side. Mitchell slings it out to center ice. Tanguay on the forecheck. Pass comes through. Off the boards for Crosby. Tipped it back behind the net. Rammed around. Hornquist holds it in. He shoots and deflected off of Crosby and goes wide. Puck played back up the wall. Out to center ice and a pass for Mitchell. He's over the line. Pass over to Tanguay. He shoots to the front. And the block sends the puck up to center ice. LaPerriere carrying the puck into the Avalanche zone. LaPerriere again with the puck. LaPierre in the corner. Tied up there by Tanguay. LaPierre comes free. To the point for Letang. He shoots. That gets blocked. Back to LaPierre. Shot around. Slowed up behind the net. 1:45 to go in the first. No score. Lovejoy's pass to Bennett. Down the slot. LaPierre can't get to it. Cut off by Gannon. Circles back behind the net. Takes the pass. Quick touch pass for Hishon. Picking up speed into the zone. He shoots. Knocked down by Fleury. To the corner. McLeod arrives for the Avalanche. And the puck comes free. Up the board for Malkin. Slides a pass through. Carried by Prudence. The Avalanche line. Backhanded around. And Malkin hustles. Stole the puck away. But then he gets tied up by Redmond. And the puck worked to the corner. Como's got it. Around behind the net. Cut off by Redmond of the Avalanche. The final minute of the period. Como to the point. Lovejoy. Slides it across right on the blue line. Behind the net pass for Malkin. To Como. Back towards Lovejoy at the point. Down the boards for Como. His pass broken up and punched down the center. And a penalty drawn by Redmond. And the second time in this period, Como is going into the penalty box.
Pittsburgh penalty 17 strip.
Well, a good look at defensive pursuit. Now, this is Redmond staying with his man. A lot of times, Mike, you'll see teams keep their defenseman back, and by then there's a rotation to the forward to take that man with the puck. There, Redmond stayed with him the whole way, poked the puck off his stick, broke by, and it was pulled down. So the Avalanche get a late power play in a sort of a, different kind of first period, certainly than we saw in the game against Minnesota.
Avalanche have possession. They win the draw.
Number 17.
Puts the puck across for Barry.
2 minutes for tripping. Time of the penalty, 19 minutes.
Como in the penalty box,
seconds
tripping at
of the first period.
19:23. Second power play of this period for the Avalanche. Pass threads through. O'Reilly. He shoots. And the save made by Fleury. With Landeskog trying to screen the goalie, but the save made. Luxury has an address. Cooney Lexus invites you to see the full line of Lexus all-weather drive sedans and luxury utility vehicles for 2015. They're available at Cooney Lexus of Greenwood Village and Colorado Springs.
You saw 29 McKinnon right there, Mike. He doesn't have the full mask on after breaking his nose last game against Minnesota.
Barry shot, safe, rebound, and Fleury just got his glove up in time. And the puck comes out to center ice. So we're going to run out of time. Peter, that is now 4 regulation periods this season. We have not had a goal between these two teams.
And we couldn't have come any closer than right there. Fleury, Mike, again, you can see why he has played so well for Pittsburgh this year. I mean, he comes across, he takes away so much of the net. That was going to have to be a perfect shot by O'Reilly to get it by Fleury.
That didn't happen, but there'll be some power play carryover to the second period. We finished 20 minutes of hockey in Denver. Colorado nothing, and Pittsburgh nothing. Stay tuned after the break. Coming up on Altitude is the Toyota Intermission Report. Thank you for watching the Toyota Intermission Report, presented by the rugged family of Toyota trucks. They're available now at your neighborhood Toyota stores. Another scoreless period of hockey between the Avalanche and the Penguins. But the Avs still have 1:24 left on the power play, and they did have some chances, Peter, during that first period. Just couldn't score.
And one of the things that you should know about these Pittsburgh Penguins, this is only the second time the Avalanche have played them, the first time they played it here, is this not your fathers or your grandfathers Pittsburgh Penguins? These guys are 5th best in the National Hockey League with goals against average of 2.38. Mike, I mean, that is an outstanding number. We saw that in the first period. Now, the Avalanche did have some chances, especially the power play late. And Ryan O'Reilly, another strong period for the Avalanche. Mike, he led the Avalanche forward with 2 shots on goal. Tyson Barrie had 3, and Mike, again, what a period as far as faceoffs. 7 and 2 in faceoffs, Mike. And anytime you're in the 60% range, that's an outstanding number. He was 78% faceoffs in that first period.
You see Blake Comeau still in the box, still got another minute 24 to serve. The Avs already have had 3 shots on this power play. And they'll have that man advantage as our second period begins. Handled by the Avalanche. They win the opening draw to the period. Long pass through at the middle for Iginla. Gains the line. Fires and scores! Jerome Iginla. That is goal number 20 for Jerome Iginla. He just blasted that power play goal by Fleury to give the Avs the lead.
I mean, Mike, we're up here watching him, Mike, wind up for this. I mean, Fleury saw this the whole way. I don't believe that ramped up on the defenseman's stick. We'll have a good angle of it right here. I think that just blew by Fleury. But you know the really cool part, Mike? This is number 20 for Jerome Iginla. The 16th time in his career he has scored 20 goals. And you know what's kind of interesting, Mike? There's a promotion that goes on in the building. If they score the first 30 seconds, you win a car. Some guy just won a car. Jerome Iginla just won a gentleman a car. Isn't that great?
Fantastic.
Isn't that?
Well, the Avs, several things done there. They get the first goal of the game. They get a power play goal, which they've been searching for. And somebody won a truck. It was just...
I mean, and it was sort of such a sudden shot. He's coming down the ice. You're looking, okay, is he going to stop, set up shot for the Avalanche? He just walks in and fired it. Like, that was an old-fashioned goal. You very seldom see a goal go far side past the goaltender's pad.
And the Avalanche get that power play goal. Boy, that's an area they look back on that Minnesota game and boy, if we'd just gotten one of those the other night, might have been a different story against the Wild, but they got one here against Pittsburgh, and they lead it 1-0. That was the 4th shot on the power play for the Avalanche. And Iginla with his 4th power play goal of the season. Mitchell's pass, caught a skate, shot back behind the net, and gets cut off. Cole rolls it behind the cage. Pass up and knocked down at center ice. Taken away by Crosby. Couldn't spread a pass through. Cut off center ice. And then whipped in around by Perron. Early in the second period, Avalanche get a power play goal from Jerome Iginla. And they're up 1-0. Pass to O'Reilly. Works his way in. Puck around the board. Comeau was in the box when the goal was scored. Makes the pass. Broken up by the Avs, the blue line, and given back to Pittsburgh. Malkin cutting back. Makes the pass. Steal made by Landeskog. Comes in over the line. Cuts across the far side board. He shoots. And it caught a skate. Goes wide of the net. Kunis. His pass gets tipped. O'Reilly slaps it back in around the boards. Fleury out of the net to stop the puck behind the cage. Martin. Tag to the red line. Pass over the line. Couldn't connect. Punch free. Taken by Duchesne. Out of the corner. Redmond to center ice for Iginla. Big pass for Duchesne. Gains the line with some speed. Cuts into the corner. Iginla waiting the top of the circle, hoping the pass would come to him, but scramble continues on in the corner. And finally comes free as the Pens have got it. Pass to center ice. Shot ahead by Spaulding. Behind the net into the Avalanche zone. Spaulding again with the puck. Bennett reverses it around the board. Pouliot to the corner for the pass. Ginla bouncing behind the net. Up the boards and out to center ice. Lovejoy chopped it away. LaPierre slaps the puck into the Avalanche end. As now with double the amount of shots than the Pens had. 10-5 advantage Colorado.
But you look at now 23 minutes of hockey in this game tonight. The Avalanche have only allowed 5 shots on goal. I mean, the Pens aren't having a great game. There's no question. But the Avalanche aren't allowing them to have a good game.
Cole makes the handoff. Quick pass out towards center ice for Winning. Skates in. He shoots. Sticked aside by goaltender Semyon Varlamov. Picked up and line out to center is Hischier. To Cleach. He shoots. And a tip by Cole sends the puck out of play. Then Cole goes into the corner. And the battles there with Cleach. Linesmen are going to separate those two. Now Cody McLeod. That's Steve Downey.
There's number 1 and number 2 as far as penalty minutes in the National Hockey League. Steve Downey, 24 penalty minutes ahead of Cody McLeod right now. Cody McLeod, Mike, if you want to talk about, you know, being on a little run, 67 penalty minutes the last 10 games. He was, for the situation that at the end of the Minnesota game, he was fined $3,000. Gabriel Landeskog was fined $5,000 at the end of a very, very emotional game. Does set up a really interesting game come Sunday in Minnesota.
Does it ever?
You know, because all the Avalanche were talking about the idea that Minnesota went out and who did they get as a trade?
Chris Stewart.
Chris Stewart.
Pretty tough.
And darn tough. So it's, you know, it just sets up, Mike. I think it's safe to say that Minnesota has become the rivalry for the Colorado Avalanche in the Central Division.
Face-off control by the Avs, lost by Holden 2-on-1 for the Pens. The pass, the shot, the save by Varlamov. Centered into the slot and it gets away from the tag.
Did he not read that perfectly? I mean, he wasn't cheating, but he was ready to go right to left, and he followed that pass perfectly.
Back to the point, Martin bounced it in front of the net, kicked away, and up ice comes Tanguay, trying to get by Martin. Throw to the wall. Cross-ice pass for Mitchell. Puts the puck behind the net, rolls towards Tanguay, centered for Mitchell. Turns and shoots, and a tip sends the puck up into the screen, out of play.
Okay, on this 2-on-1, watch Semyon Varlamov. It's a great angle of it right here. Watch, not cheat, but then come across, Mike. I mean, you talk about perfect positioning. I mean, that was a pass. It was a saucer pass up over the stick. So, I mean, he had to be right there at the right time, and it was a perfect play by Semyon Varlamov.
As with the face-off, Ginla shoots. That's stopped. Pouliot with the Pens. Bouncer out the center. Chipped ahead, back to the corner. O'Reilly. Bounced in the corner. Scooped up by Como. Pass to the far point. Shot by Lovejoy. Glove save made by Varlamov. His 8th save of the game.
Well, you look at so many of the clubs. You got 2 new defensemen for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Mike, and so many clubs around the National Hockey League. There wasn't maybe the big blockbuster deal. Maybe Yandel going to New York Rangers was maybe the biggest, along with Vermette going again to the Chicago Blackhawks. But every club, or most clubs, have somebody to look at to work into their lineup.
At center. Tips free. Whipped back by Kunitz into the corner. Pouliot. Bounce back to center. Ever dangerous. Evgeny Malkin dropped it. Kunitz shoots, but Varlamov makes the save again.
Little dormant, the offense for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. In the last couple of minutes, you've seen them. And where you see, Mike, teams suddenly get hot offensively, they're attacking the blue line with speed. And they're backing off the defenseman, and then they can start to dangle in. And you got guys like Malkin and Crosby and the players they have here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's when they can get really dangerous.
Shot off The heel of the stick by Brandon Sutter goes wide. Pushed up the boards. Winnick to the point. With the pass, Scuderi shoots, and another nice save by Varlamov. Shot by Winnick. That one got tipped behind the net. Hooked around. Delayed penalty coming up on the Avalanche. Fleury gets across the red line to the Pens bench for the extra skater. High in the slot, it's Crosby. Into the circle, Scuderi. Back to Crosby. Shot. It escaped. Crosby comes up with the puck. Delayed penalty against the Avalanche. Extra skater out for Pittsburgh. And the Avs touch the puck. As Duchesne got to it. And Pittsburgh's going to get a chance to go on the power play for the first time in the game. Avs are up, though, 1-0. Back with a power play for Pens in a moment. These lucky fans upgraded from the Ram Trucks fan zone to the lower bowl seats courtesy of Ram Trucks. Purchase tickets in section 362 for your chance to win and upgrade to the official truck of your Colorado Avalanche. Well, the penalty on Jan Hejda for holding at 6:07. And so Pittsburgh Penguins went 0 for 2 on the power play last time they met. Get their first power play chance of this game.
In the last 8 games, Colorado Avalanche, 1 power play goal against and 22 opportunities, Mike. And guess what? It was an empty net power play goal by Carter against the LA Kings. But so overall, it's been almost perfect for the Colorado Avalanche the last 8 games.
And the Avs have the puck. It is Everberg coming in. He shoots, and Fleury forced to make a glove save.
And one of the things that Pittsburgh does do, they will have Malkin or Crosby a lot of times on the point in the power play. So every once in a while, you're going to see Malkin coming back there. That's that forward. And Mike, it's you can practice all you want. You're just not going to practice enough. Your natural instincts of how to control the gap and all of those things. So Everberg was allowed to walk in a little closer than maybe a defenseman would have allowed him to.
This Pittsburgh Penguins team, Peter, they've scored a power play goal in 4 consecutive games.
How can they not? I mean, it should be 64 consecutive games, or how many 62 games they've played so far.
Slammed around, tipped in at the point by Letang. Read the pass through, cross ice towards Malkin, but the Avs got a stick in the passing lane and tipped the puck out of play.
But Mike, it does just show you just the fact that their power play had, for a while there, went bone dry. How difficult it is to score this thing. When you watch the talent that's on the ice for Pittsburgh, with Letang, Crosby, Malkin to start it all off, you think it would have to work every single time they touch the puck. Well, that's not in the National Hockey League anymore. Penalty killing is outstanding. Goaltending is just tremendous. I mean, it is the single most important position now in all of the sport.
Now, you think about it, they're number 7 in the league, but they're only at 21% success rate. And they're going to have to chase the puck back in. The Avs killed 14 in a row. So far, a minute into the penalty on Hejda. We're holding at 6:07. The trailer is Malkin. He gets the pass. And poke checked away by O'Reilly. It's a race for the puck. O'Reilly has got it. And can't get a shot off. And Crosby will scoop it up, and the Pens try to take advantage. They get some numbers up the ice. Kunitz cutting in. And his pass banks into the corner. Malkin digs out the puck. Rolled it back behind the net for Crosby. Off the boards. And Letang just got to it in time. But he did. Into the corner, the handoff to Crosby. Sidney Crosby with the puck. Pass to Malkin. Cross ice for Letang. And trying to get those sticks down low. Shot by Hornquist gets blocked. And the puck is cleared out by the Avs. Only 20 seconds left in the penalty. Crosby has left the ice. Malkin dumps the puck in. He is staying on the ice. And the Pens are going to run out of time. One more rush. And Tanguay ties up Perron. Puck scooped up, carried to center ice by Como. Hayden comes out of the box. Como shoots, blocked by Gettin. And so the Avalanche, what a special team tonight. They get a power play goal, and they killed off a penalty.
Yeah, it was the power play last game you mentioned for the Avalanche. And, oh boy, there were so many times the roof would have come off if they had scored a power play goal, but they get one tonight.
Shot by Barrie, and and that one hammered, but it found the glass behind Marc-Andre Fleury. Perron's pass tipped out the center. This is the start of a 4-game road trip for Pittsburgh. It's going to take them through California after this game. McKinnon to make a pass, got cut off, and the puck is popped out to center, rolling into the Avalanche zone. 11 minutes to go in the second, 1-0. What is it about these games between these two teams? We just don't see a lot of goals.
And you wake up and you start doing your work and you think there has to be some scoring tonight. Guys are hot, guys are ready. The Avalanche are coming off as hard fought a game as you're going to have against Minnesota with all the energy you possibly want, and it's just all of a sudden it's a defensive battle.
Sutter's pass across the rink. Cole looks it back behind the net. Shot in front, stopped by Varlamov.
Ryan O'Reilly does a great job. Watch O'Reilly poke the puck right here and then just poke it ahead and chase it down. And Letang, Mike, probably the most underrated defenseman in the league right now. I mean, he is so good offensively. I mean, he's leading the league right now as far as defenseman scoring. He plays, in last game, for example, over 28 minutes for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he is that guy for the Penguins.
39 assists this season. Again, first the block for Barry, but he falls down. He threw it out in front, and Downey had his pocket picked. And the puck carried up ice by Hischian to the corner. Laid back up the boards by Fleury, cut off, banked out to center. To the middle circle, Gennon's pass, waved in by Cleese, back into the Pittsburgh zone. Shut around the boards, Spaulding waiting. Backhands it across the rink for Cole. He's into the Avalanche zone, bounced it to Lapierre, hooked it back to the point. And Cole backhands it around, tended for Spaulding. Comes free for Hornqvist. His pass to the blue line for Lovejoy. Run around behind the net, Lapierre threw it out in front, knocked down, cleared out by the Avalanche. Pouliot with some pressure from McKinnon. And Perron makes the pass back into his own zone for Lovejoy. Back for Perron. Went through his skates and into the Colorado end. Pass across for Holden. Out to center. Landeskog chopped it ahead back into the pen zone. Bounce behind the net. Pouliot up the boards for Perron. Trying to hit Crosby with the pass. They don't connect. And the puck lifted back into the Pittsburgh zone. Backhanded off the boards. Scooped up by Como. Top of the circle. He shoots and misses high. And the race back into the Pittsburgh zone for the puck. Pens get there, and it's Martin. Pressure from Tanguay, rolls it around. Out to center for Malkin. Misfires on a pass. And Pittsburgh called for icing with 8:33 to go in the second period.
Well, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, you know, as Mike, you and I have talking about, they've kind of retooled their defensive core. But the one guy they do have, you know, is 27-year-old like Chris Letang. And Mike, you watch him play, talking to the people for Pittsburgh, they say not only is he great offensively, because he's not a great big guy, 6 foot, 200 pounds, but he is tough. I mean, he can play in all situations. If the game gets nasty, he's one of those guys that's right there. A little bit like Duncan Keith with the Chicago Blackhawks. You know, maybe he doesn't, it's not all the time, but he is out there.
Just made a nice play to fend off the man in front of the net and then play the puck. Kunitz skates to center. Pass and gets away from Hornqvist. Kunitz chases the puck down with some good hustle. Tied up by Gennon. Malkin comes away with the puck. Hornqvist shoots, and it is tipped by Holden out of play. And we'll be back with more second period play in Denver. 1-0 Avalanche.
We're back at the Pepsi Center in the second. As up over Pittsburgh, 1-0. 24-year-old Jordan Caron making his Avalanche debut tonight for Colorado. Now, he says his agent gave him a heads up that he had been traded on Monday, but he didn't know where he was going. When he found out it was Colorado, he was thrilled. Jordan, I talked to him this morning. He described himself as a good two-way forward, a big body that likes to be around the net, creating space for teammates, and he loves getting those greasy goals. Very excited to be here, guys.
said it was one of his favorite teams growing up that he followed, the Avalanche.
And it's one of those things, Mike, you always like to go to a team where you know a couple of people. And imagine being, introduced to the guys by Jerome McGinley, guy he played with last year, the Boston Bruins. It smooths things out pretty quickly.
Shot by Sutter, misses the net. Lovejoy pinching in from the point. Centering pass. Tip, boy, the Avalanche. There were 4 guys right in front of the net there on that pass. They've played a very good defensive game. Pass up ice for Downey. They pass to center for Winnick. Icing pulled on Pittsburgh. Didn't quite reach the red line when he chipped it in.
Well, every game takes on a certain characteristic, a certain way that it's been going, and you can see it right now. We're well past the halfway point, and there's just not going to be a lot of scoring chances this game. They're playing it well defensively, so I mean, at this point, it changes how you approach the game. You're not going to make a mistake. You're going to play the puck on the other side of the puck. In other words, on the defensive side of the puck, and you've got to be smart. You cheat in a game like this, and all of a sudden it's 1-1 or 2-0. Coaches are not happy.
Sent in by Pittsburgh. Around into the corner. Get it. Hishin. And Hishin breaks out to center with the puck. Nearly surrounded by Pittsburgh Penguin players. The puck's left back into the Colorado end. Barry's pass. Finds Hishin. Moved around to the corner. Bo Bennett. His pass gets blocked. Gets the puck again. Pass up ice. LaPierre. Puck shot back in to the Colorado zone. Scramble for the puck behind the net. Pens have got it. Kick free. And carried up ice by Landeskog. With O'Reilly to his left. Pass towards O'Reilly. Behind the net. Pass in front for Stewart, who had pitched in. Good area. Brings it around. And Stewart passed through the middle, tipped in. Push back out to center. McKinnon for the Avalanche. Britton down the off wing. Throws to the wall. Chased by Letang. Turns away from him. Pass in the middle for O'Reilly. Bounces it wide of the Pittsburgh net. Centered for Redmond. He shoots and pinged it off the post. Back around. Picked up by Landeskog. Feeds it. Pass in front. Nathan McKinnon will get credit for the goal. And the Avalanche are up 2-0 over Pittsburgh.
Well, McKinnon might started this play with some great puck movement on his own, stick handling just around the blue line. And then all of a sudden, the Avalanche were rotating, moving around Landeskog, who will pick up his second assist of the game. Nice pass to Hayden, but watch the play Hayden makes. Right there, he waits, and then that is a direct pass. That is not a shot on goal that McKinnon tipped. That is a pass by Hayden, down low to McKinnon, stick on the ice hard. And did that bounce off the skate, Mike?
That's what I thought initially.
Yeah. I think right now they're waiting to make sure that there's nothing coming down from Toronto.
It didn't look like he kicked at it.
No. It's a fight, but the points are too important. Thumbs up. Good goal in the Avalanche, Mike. That was not a long good shift, but a real solid shift once they got into the zone.
Pouliot turns and shoots wide of the net. Malkin comes up with the puck. A wrestle away from Mitchell. Gives the puck to Kunitz. Threw it out in front. Everberg slapped to the head. Stripped away by Lovejoy. Rips the puck back around.
Time of the goal, 14
Into the corner. Malkin with a puck. Bounces back to the point for Pouliot. Gets some pressure. Kunitz in the slot. Shots. And that hit a body in front. And deflects out of play. So the Avalanche with their second goal in the second period. Nathan McKinnon with his 14th of the season.
It's 1,000 games tonight for Alex Tanguay, Mike, but there was one special game against Nashville, and 2000, where he got into his one and only fight, and he was throwing him. He wasn't holding on. He didn't necessarily come out on the great big side of it, but he was throwing him. And you know, one thing about Alex Tanguay, I've always felt the most underrated part of his game, Mike. He's in there. I mean, he hits, he takes hits. He never ever shies away from anything physical when it comes to the game. And I think because he's such a finesse player, people have forgotten that about his game.
For the point, Letang's shot misses the net. 2-0 for the Avalanche. Iginla and McKinnon with the goals. Martin makes the pass. Sutter turns and shoots, and Varlamov makes the save. Let's look at who is in the group, brought to you by Group Subaru, and spending the evening talking about Alex Tanguay, who's playing his 1000th NHL game tonight.
The NHL representative that you know, gave Alex Tanguay the crystal vase or whatever it is, Mike. Jim Gregory, I've known him for a long, long time, and he's saying that he's the one that gives away all of these awards. He said he was amazed that it's only the 299th player of all time to play 1,000 games. It really is a huge milestone, and I always get a kick out of the players. They'll try to be very humble. It's a nice thing, but right, there's a pride they have. I'm in the 1,000-game club, and there are not many of them. In the 90-year history of this game, that's not a whole lot of guys.
Well, you said this morning that if you think about it, 750 players a year in the NHL, and you think all the years the NHL has been around, it is quite an accomplishment.
I mean, first of all, you have to be so talented, it's ridiculous. But secondly, durable, yep. And you've got to have a passion for the game.
And that's another thing that he said this morning, that he just still loves coming to the rink, still loves playing. Barry with the puck. Behind in for O'Reilly. Nice pass. Landeskog fires, and the save made by Fleury. And he almost got surprised on that shot from behind the net by Landeskog. Meanwhile, Pens come in. Pass gets tipped wide of the net. As it's got it. Carried to center by O'Reilly. Got in around the glass. Slowed up by Fleury. And Landeskog threw it out in front. Avs are just simply out hustling the Penguins right now.
In the last 5 or 7 minutes, it went from a game that you're wondering which way it would go. And it really didn't head towards the Avalanche after Iginla's goal. But then all of a sudden, there's a couple of shifts, and now the Avalanche, as you said, Mike, they're just outworking the Penguins, and especially the O'Reilly line. Every time they've been on the ice, the puck is there, and they're right on it, beating the man to the puck.
Well, Peter, we're doing all the celebrating for Alex Tanguay and making the 1,000th game tonight. You came up 46 short. Is that, does it, but in all seriousness, do you think about it? Does it just stick with you a little bit? Does another 46 games you would have been in that club?
No. You know, I was so done when I was done. Hanging around another 46 games would have been a pathetic thing.
Save made by Varlamov, and then he's able to cover up and get a face-off.
Now, to say would I have liked to have been in the club? You bet. But could I have? No, I had nothing left. And look at this great opportunity for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Mike, you keep wondering when they're going to sort of crank up the offense in this game. There's been a couple of pockets of time when they, you know, have come at Semyon Varlamov, but he has been, I mean, razor sharp in this game.
Well, he hasn't had to be too busy. He's only faced those 15 shots. That helps. But he's been there when they've needed him. And a steal made by Duchesne. Flies out in the center. Comes in over the line. Pushed off the puck by Downey. And Winnick. Pass through the middle for Cole. Moves it around into the Colorado zone. Cut off by Winnick. Pass behind the net for Sutter. To the point. Split across. Shots missed the net. Back up the board. Kept in by the Pens. See Hayda pushing Downey against the back of the net. Shot to the corner. Less than 2 minutes to go in the period. Hornquist knifing his way behind the net. Being hounded by Barry. Lost the puck.
Redmond got there first.
Long pass to center, and it comes to McKinnon. Cuts in. His pass behind Landeskog. Shot around the boards, and the Avalanche again winning those battles to get to the puck. Comes free though for Spaulding. Quickly up ice for Crosby. Into the corner, threw it out in front. That got stopped by Varlamov. Pass out to center ice. Lob to the corner. Icing called on the Avs. 1:13 left to go. Visit your Colorado Kia dealers today to discover Kia's full lineup of high-quality, stylish, and dependable vehicles. Go to ColoradoKiaDealers.com to learn more.
Just one of the like interesting story this year in the National Hockey League is how well Detroit has played. They beat the Rangers tonight 2-1. You know they're the only club in the league right now that has not lost 2 games in a row in regulation. I mean, how do they do it?
Just sadness, that's all.
Yeah.
And it's center ice.
I think it more sickens you. Sadden is far too calm a word for that. I just mentioned the Red Wings and your head started to just, turn red.
Malkin with the puck coming in over the line. Dropped it behind him for Kunitz. Malkin chasing to the corner. Hit and pinned against the boards. Good play from Stewart. And Malkin somehow found the puck. Up to Pouliot, knocked away. Tanguay's got it. Letang's got the angle. And shot high by Tanguay. Apparently went out of play and hit the screen above the glass. Out of play.
And you look at it, Winnipeg lost. And Winnipeg lost, and Minnesota, who just couldn't be any hotter. They're 75. Winnipeg got 76. So Winnipeg, I thought, was going to be a lock to run into the Western Conference playoffs for the first time since they got to Winnipeg, and now all of a sudden they're right in the mix and all of that stuff.
They played an Ottawa team, Peter, that had to play last night in Minnesota, lost in a shootout to Minnesota. Then they thought that Anderson was going to be the starting goaltender this morning, but he got hurt and then wasn't ready, and then they went back to the Hamburglar. And
what a great nickname for a goaltender, the Hamburglar. I mean, and he's just been fantastic. But the thing about it now, they've won all these games. They got 67 points. They're only 4 points up.
And they got some games in hand, too.
Yeah.
Pass up ice, Pouliot to the red line. 5 seconds to go, long shot. And Varlamov will sweep the puck in the corner. And how about that period for the Avalanche? You can talk about the goals, but Peter, how about the defensive play by the Avalanche during that period against one of the better offensive teams in the National Hockey League?
Farley was really tested on 1-2-on-1, and he was perfect. The defense solid in front of him, and everybody across the board was good defensively.
That is now 5 periods of regulation hockey this year. The Avs have not given up a goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Wow. They laid it 2-0 after 2. Stay tuned for the Subaru intermission reports. Colorado Avalanche Hockey on Altitude is brought to you by Groove Subaru. On Broadway or online at grooveauto.com. Anova. Beat prostate cancer in 5 treatments and get back in the game. Pepsi. Proud to be the official soft drink of the Colorado Avalanche. And by the Ford Fusion. Offering the availability of all-wheel drive with big MPGs, smart technology, and unsurpassed quality. See what happens when fun meets the road. Ford. Go further. Avalanche with a couple of second period goals. Jerome McGinley with his 20th of the year. Nathan McKinnon also with a goal, and the Avs lead it 2-0. Headed towards the 3rd period of play, playing very well defensively. Peter, let's talk about our Lexus on the ice and that line of Landeskog, O'Reilly, McKinnon. Boy, they are flying tonight. They are beating the Pens with the puck.
Absolutely. And, Semyon Varlamov has been good. The defensive core has been good. But the offense has been led by this line. They've been moving the puck well. And it's an interesting group. I mean, they're all young, talented players. But you've got the power forward in Landeskog. I mean, he's 6'2", 220. I mean, he is a bull coming up and down that left side. On the right side, you got the young kid, 2nd year in the league. All kinds of speed. Drives to the net right there and scores a goal. And then down the middle, returning to center ice after spending all of last year on the left side. Ryan O'Reilly doing a great job of finding these guys, and for the Colorado Avalanche, they know they're up against it. There's no question about it. They're 10 points out coming into tonight. So they have to have a lot of people really play well. Another thing they can't do, Mike, is blow a 2-goal lead in the third period.
Shot by Como gets stopped by Varlamov. Malkin. Shot blocked by Landeskog. To the point for Letang. Slides it across. Martin back to Letang. Landeskog broke his stick, but he's still on the ice. In the slot, shot goes wide of the net. Pittsburgh still controlling the puck. Landeskog's going to head off. Gets a new stick. Shot hits the side of the net. Poke 3 to the corner. Barry sends it around off the shelf and tapped to center ice. And the Avs have got it. It's McKinnon. Puck rolled away from him. When the Avs score in the third period, you score with Subway. Go to your local Subway restaurant tomorrow for any regular 6-inch sub for just $3 after 3. Ron cuts in, he shoots. Stopped by Stewart. And the defenseman slugs it up and out. Cutting across. Julian puts it off the boards for Crosby. Couldn't hold on to the puck. And Holden dashing out to center ice, moves in, hand off to Mitchell. Cuts in, and just before he took the backhander, poke check. Blocked in front of the Penguins net. Slapped up and out. Chased the corner by Hayden. Backhands it around. Pass to the point for Cole. Down low, tip, behind the net. Bouncing puck in the slot, shot, and got deflected wide. Grabbed by Downey to the point. Shoots behind the net. Redmond off the glass and out of play. That stopped the clock. A little over 2 minutes played in the third. Still 2-0 Avalanche.
Well, for Jerome Iginla, Mike, when you look at 20-goal seasons, only Jaromir Jagr with 18 has more of active players in the National Hockey League. And you look down that list: Hossa, LeCavier, Patrick Marleau, Shane Doan, Mike. These are veterans of the National Hockey League, Mike, and the consistency to score 16 times, score 20 goals in a season. I mean, you look at his durability for a guy that plays the way that he does. It's been remarkable.
Landeskog powers his way to the corner. Malkin slips the pass. Kunitz to center. Lifted in. Again, cut it off. To the corner for McKinnon. Back to Gedden. Up ice for O'Reilly. Pass through the middle. He had Landeskog. Broken up. Como. Couldn't hold on to the puck. McKinnon backhands it ahead. Martin's pass. Off for Lapierre. He tipped it, so no icing. Varlamov sent it high off the glass. Put back in the corner for Lapierre. Comes free. Avs has got it. Hitchin. Puts it around the boards. Got by Lovejoy. Off of Hitchin. Over to Cleese. Pass intercepted. Spaulding. In the corner. Poke checked away by Stewart. Spaulding got it again. Stewart hanging on him. They give to Lapierre. Reverse the puck back behind the net. Bennett. Dropped it for Lapierre. Holding on him. Past the side of the net. Lovejoy pinching in. Hit by McLeod. Bennett from behind the net with the puck for the Pens. Pass to Lapierre. Threw it out in front. And it ricocheted to McLeod. Puts it in towards the net. And a flurry off the boards. Avs got it back. McGinley comes in. Chased down and grabbed by Caron. Puck behind the net. Centered out in front by McGinley. Gets blocked. Back to Caron. 1-3 by Pouliot. We got a whistle. We're going to have a penalty.
Like I was watching that shift by Jordan Caron. You know, obviously yesterday you're interested in watching him play, see the little things he does. As watch the penalty here against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But Mike, two things that you notice right away. He's a big guy. He's probably 6'3", about 205, 207 pounds. But he skates really well. They had a hard skate at the end of practice yesterday, and you can always tell the guys that have the good stride, because when you get deep into the drill, your legs start to really get tired.
Pittsburgh penalty, number 51.
Penalty on Derek Pouliot. Interference at 4:20. Ginla shot tipped wide of the net. That's a 1 for 2 tonight in the power play. Goal scored by Ginla. Holden back over to Ginla. Ginla blasts one wide of the net. Well, they have love to put this game away, right? Get this third goal, finish it off.
Because Pittsburgh not doing a whole lot. The Avalanche are allowing them to do a whole lot. 3-goal lead would look awfully sweet right now.
Holden shoots wide of the net. Martin fires it out to center ice. Chased down by Holden. Pass got by Ginla. Icing is the call with 1:05 left in Pouliot's penalty.
And Mike, it's been an interesting night. Tyson Barrie, 40 points now for the season. And you look at Mike, Rob Blake 4 times, Johnny Miles 3, Ray Bourque, of course, in that great year that he was here for the entire year in 2000-2001, Derek Morris, and that Tyson Barrie. And Mike, I think he's on his way to a 50-point season, and they are few and far between now in the National Hockey League.
He's come out of the ice to join the power play. Overskated the puck for a moment. Recovers. Circles behind the net. Zips a pass across for Landeskog to take. Stick handles his way in. Stripped away by Martin, but he gave away the puck. Back towards Redmond. Into the corner for O'Reilly. Back towards Redmond. Barrie walking in. Cross ice pass. Off the stick of O'Reilly. Fed back towards Redmond. One-timer. Barrie misses. And around the glass and out.
Well, Mike, the Avalanche have shot themselves in the foot on this power play by missing that to the far side and has whistled out of the zone. I mean, if there's anything, you got to hit the net, but hit the net short side. If you miss it like that, you see what happens. It just wraps around the boards, and it takes away 30 seconds.
That's it. Power play is done. Out of the box is Pouliot. That's the end of the power play chance. Winnick. Get in towards Varlamov. Kicks it to the far side. Downey. Into the corner with a puck. Winnick one-times it. And it went off of Avalanche Nathan MacKinnon and out of play. It's still 2-0 Avalanche in the third. Let's answer tonight's Did You Know question, brought to you by Stevenson Automotive. We asked you in the first period, how many players have appeared in their 1,000th NHL game as a member of the Colorado Avalanche? The correct answer is 8 have done it. All right, which is the name that surprised you? When I saw Todd Gill.
Todd Gill, yeah. I mean, he was defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche, played in his 1,000th game with the Avalanche. Mike, your favorite, I would imagine, Ian LaPerriere, one of your favorites, certainly on that list.
They're all my favorites.
Yeah, but Lappy, come on, come on, spill the beans here.
You know, it is, but I mean, that's a lot of guys. You think about the numbers. You have 299 in the history of the NHL, and you've had 8 with the Avalanche. That's great.
That have appeared in their 1,000th game, not just guys that eventually.
Right.
Or had played.
Right.
For example, like Ginla has been played in 1,000 games before. Obviously, he got to the Avalanche.
I think didn't Gary Curry?
Curry. I mean, there's just a ton of guys. Patrick Waugh. Dale Hunter. I mean, you know, there's Ray had played a few by the time he got to the Avalanche.
He had 20 seasons. You're going to get into 1,000. Shot by Mitchell missed, but you're right. But to actually be in the uniform and have an 8, that's quite a bit. 2-0 Avalanche. Jarome Iginla, Nathan MacKinnon with the goals. Landeskog with the puck. Centering pass, tip to the corner. Malkin. Ahead for Como. Well, there's 12 and a half minutes to go. And let's be honest here, we have not said the name Sidney Crosby very much in this game. He has just not been a factor at all.
It's been a terrific job by the Avalanche to keep him, under wraps, because once he takes control of a game, you're in trouble. They have not even allowed that to be even a part of this game to this point.
You can almost say the same for Evgeny Malkin, who made several little plays, but let's face it, he has not dominated at all.
He's coming off 3 games where he had 3 points in each of the games.
Oh, Pittsburgh trying to get guys off. Guys falling down, trying to get through the door.
Almost broke their ankles trying to get off.
Duchesne, backhander, set made by Marc-Andre Fleury.
That's just one of those situations, Mike. You're trying to get off the ice, and all of a sudden, there's all that stuff. But here's Duchesne coming to the back end. Nice little pass. Again, Mike, really having a good game for the Avalanche. I've watched him a couple of times, and he has come back hard defensively. He had that big power play goal that stands right now as the game winner if the score was to end up the way it is right now.
Cut off by Sutter. What a job the Avs have done against Pittsburgh defensively this season. Still, Pittsburgh has not scored a goal against Colorado during regulation this season.
I believe it's 66 shots on goal, isn't it? 48 shots.
48 the last game, yeah.
And 18 now. So 66 consecutive saves by the Avalanche goaltenders.
Well, it was Calvin Pickard who was in net for that 48 save.
That exhausting 48 saves.
Shot. And Perron's chance deflected out of play. Everyone deserves a snow day. Get yours at Copper Mountain. The lowest lift ticket price is guaranteed on coppercolorado.com.
Mike, that's the first place I ever went skiing in Copper Mountain. In my whole life. And you know what my claim to fame was?
What's that?
About 100 yards off, I fell off the chairlift.
Oh, that's...
I wasn't on properly and just fell off about 20 feet straight.
Crosby turns and shoots. Hornquist sent it across. Back to the point. Down low, Crosby shoots, and that gets tipped high. So the Pen trying to get something happening. Hornquist shot deflects wide of the net. Back to center. Letang drifts back behind the net. Makes the pass. Pouliot comes to center. Puts it through. And regains possession. McKinnon to Tanguay. Right at the line. Held up. Stripped away. Carried by Malkin. He's got a man with him. Cuts across. He shoots. And scores! Well, we talked about we hadn't seen much from Crosby or Malkin. And then all of a sudden, Malkin does what only Malkin can do. And that is now 6 games in a row with a point for Evgeny Malkin.
Does he dance through the middle? I mean, this is, fans, I'm telling you right here, this is gorgeous. Now, the Avalanche have the puck, and they're going to be kicking themselves. They cough it up right there because all of a sudden you give it to the wrong guy. And Malkin just comes down, and that's the power that he has. He's coming across so hard, and he not only got the shot on, then he grabbed the rebound and was able to put it, watch, here comes, boom. He just comes right to left all the way through. I believe that actually hit a Holden, and then the Avalanche get unlucky because that went between the body of Holden and Semyon Varlamov in behind him.
Well, the game gets a little more interesting here as we show you our Subway summary. Evgeny Malkin at 9:45, 27th of the season. All of a sudden, we got ourselves a little hockey game going here. 10 minutes to go in the third, and it's 2-1. Shot from center ice by Hischier. Stopped behind the net by Fleury. We always hear that talk about that next goal, and the Avs had that power play, put them in at 3-0, and
that killer instinct, not quite there for the Avalanche. That was a big one, and now it's because we all knew that one play. This club, Pittsburgh, is capable of one play for one player as any team in the league.
And the puck, Letang shoots. He missed the net. Again, trying to clear. Flagged out. Horton turns and shoots, and the save made by Varlamov. Evgeny Malkin celebrating the Pittsburgh Penguins goal. Time for tonight's recap delivered to you by Jimmy Johns. Very early, only 13 seconds into the period on the power play. Jarome Iginla gets his 20th of the year, and then a pass from Hayda tipped by McKinnon. 2-0 Avs. Things look like they're pretty good, going pretty good for the Avalanche until Malkin cruised in and did something that very few players in the NHL can do. But he can do it, and that was goal number 27 to cut the lead in half, and it's now a one-goal hockey game. 2-1 for Colorado. Malkin back to the point. Shot around the board, slowed up into the corner. Played back to the point. Malkin pass. Again, he got a stick on it, but it bounced back for the Pens into the corner. Malkin seemingly everywhere on the ice here on this shift. Bouncing puck. Comes out to center ice. Chased down by Letang. Gets back behind the net. Leads Malkin. Skates through center. His pass comes back to him. Oh my goodness. He comes in. He shoots. He almost scored that. Oh, holy cow. Pass comes across. Como. Fire. Safe. Rebound. Kicked into the corner. Como wrapped it around. Letang's got a hustle. He got there in time. Nope. Oh, I thought that came out. Very close, but play continues on. Holden shoots it in. Is that a shift?
Was that a move? I mean, because he lost it once, then he regained it and just kept it going.
And in center. Puck handled by Downey. Gave it away. Bounced back to him. Shot to the side of the net. When it centered into the slot, it is shifted by Alex Tanguay. Pass to center for Mitchell. Lobbed into the corner. 7:30 to go. Third period, 2-1 Avalanche. Tanguay lost the puck to Sutter. Skates to center ice. Skates into the Avalanche zone. Cuts across. Lost the puck, and Redden came after him. Sutter, handoff. Pouliot slides it across. Lovejoy slapped it around the, I don't know where that was going. Into the corner. Sutter goes down to the ice on top of the puck. It comes free for Tanguay. Lifts it up and out. Lovejoy waits. Everybody comes out. Shoots it in towards Varlamov. Here's the puck wide. Backhanded around. Now 7 minutes left to go. And the puck chopped out to center ice by Everberg. Pass across. Hayda slammed in. Rims around. And the tip sends it up in the air, but grabbed by Iginla. Handoff. Caron to the corner. Lost the puck. Pass to center ice. Hornquist joined on the rush. Got a man with him. Pass though gets tipped behind the net. Cole lost the puck. Cole got it back. Burst it behind the net. That's Brad Stewart off the boards. Didn't get out of the zone. Hornquist has got the puck. Behind him for Crosby. Pass back to the point. Shot by Letang. Blocked between the circles. Taken around. And it tipped to the boards. Grabbed by Crosby. He's been very quiet in this game. Back to the point. Shots! Oh boy! That one skimmed wide of the net. Crosby after it. Up the boards for Iginla. Pushed against the wall. And the puck comes free. Letang's got it. Letang trying to find a little rope. Pass. Crosby's got it. In the slot. Back towards top of the circle. Way back behind the net. For Crosby. Centering pass. Blocked. And Martin didn't hold it in. Comes out to center ice. Iginla pulls up, but he's at the end of a shift. He got whacked down to the ice by Martin. Letang moves the puck behind the net. 5:20 to go. Steal. But the Pens get it back. Malkin. Fired in. Pass across. Hit a skate. And O'Reilly steals it away. Gets to the fight for Landeskog. He cuts in. He shoots. The captain gave Landeskog. Big goal for the Avs. It gives them a 3-1 lead.
What a game the captain is having tonight. Holy cow, but let's take you back a minute or so ago, maybe two, and Malkin, great opportunity, just a great shift, great play right here. Just, I mean, Mike, there's the size and power of Malkin. But this play, they break it up at the blue line, looked like Pittsburgh was coming along, and just, I mean, you just don't see an NHL defenseman get beat like this very often. What a nice move by Gabe Landeskog. Left winger coming down that right side, Mike, he just goes right, left, steps into the middle, and just throws it past Marc-Andre Fleury and his place, Mike, because you can feel it. They're revving up. The place was revving up because of how Pittsburgh was playing and all the stuff. And what a great goal for Gabe Landeskog. A goal and 2 assists now in this game.
You have scored, you win with Subway. Visit your local Subway restaurant tomorrow for any regular 6-inch sub for $3 after 3.
There was a big goal. That, Mike, because it was, you know, you're getting down to crunch time. Here comes Pittsburgh. Crosby had a good shift. Malkin had back-to-back-to-back good shifts. And you're going, okay, what's going to happen here? And what happened was Gabe Landeskog took over that shift.
Scoring his 17th goal of the season.
5 minutes to go.
Gabriel
Hayden
Landeskog.
out to center ice.
Assisted by number 90.
Lovejoy with the puck for the Pens.
Puts
to the head, no icing. Warlamov out to handle it. Shot around.
From O'Reilly at
Sutter.
14:57. Money.
Back towards the point. Pouliot tipped it. And Cleach launches the puck over the glass in the Penn zone and out of play. What a goal for Gabe Landeskog, 17th of the year. And the Avs now lead 3-1 in the third.
Well, Mike, the captain is keeping them alive in this playoff hunt. And just talking to him yesterday, I mean, that's all they're thinking about. It's just they do not want the last part of this season not to mean something. They want to keep fighting. And then if I've heard it once, it's the mantra of the club: chipping away, chipping away. If they win tonight, they're back within 8. And then, Mike, you do have that game against Minnesota in Minnesota. You start looking forward. We got to have Columbus obviously first, and maybe a little luck. Maybe not all 4 clubs ahead of you win every single game. You could have a couple of losses in there.
Avalanche doing a good job in this period blocking shots. They've had 12 in this third period. They had 11 total through the first 2.
It also means Pittsburgh's been in the zone a fair amount.
And in fact, Pittsburgh leading in shots now. 24-21. But the Avalanche, most important stat, they're up 3-1 in goals. Tanguay has the puck. Cross-ice pass. Everberg cuts in. What a move. Rebound shot. Score!
No goal, Mike. No goal, Mike. They're going to wave it off. Now the referees are going to confer on this, but the referee, Mike, that was down there is saying no goal. Face up outside the zone. It's not enough contact to call a penalty. Oh my! Wow.
There's no goal on the play as the Avalanche player interfered the Pittsburgh goalie prior to the goal.
You know, Mike, I think this is one of those situations where the referee was on the one side and he saw, and because we saw it from the behind the angle. I think Everberg stopped and actually didn't make that kind of contact with. But either way, it was knocked down and the play is called.
Pass through the middle, tipped by Malkin. McKinnon. Pass to Landeskog. To Barry. Off the glass and out. And Pouliot back to handle the puck for Pittsburgh. Big pass too far for Kunis to reel in.
Isn't it amazing?
Barry with the puck.
Isn't it an amazingly different game, Mike, with a 2-goal lead? You know, you're not sitting on the edge of every pass thinking, okay, if this one goes bad and they score, then it's tied up. It's just, it frees you up defensively as much as offensively.
A whole different feel. Another factor is simply just the amount of time. You know, there's just 2:45 left to go here in this game.
With 40-second shifts, that's, you know, just about 2 shifts for your top lines in the last part of this game.
Downey through center, spreads the pass across, shot rising, and stopped by Varlamov as Downey crashed in. Saturday, the Avalanche are in Columbus, facing off against the Blue Jackets. Please join us. Complete coverage begins at 4:30, right here in your home of the Avalanche, Altitude Sports. And Columbus, boy, at the beginning of the season, Peter, I thought that was going to be a team that was going to contend for the top spot in the Eastern Conference, but injuries have just decimated that team, and they make a trade for David Clarkson. He got hurt last night.
Yeah.
He's out for 6 weeks.
6 weeks is just about the rest of the season. So if anything that could go wrong with that club has gone wrong, the Avalanche aren't going to feel sorry for it. They come into tonight's game 345 man games lost. They're over 350 after the game.
Pittsburgh has pulled the goaltender. Taking a page out of the Patrick Roy book. Over 2 minutes to go, down by a couple. 3-1 lead for the Avs. Kunitz, pass to Crosby. Tipped into the corner. A lot of players there. Kunitz rolls it around. Tanguay bounces it. It's rolling. It is rolling. It is wide. Icing called on the Avalanche. Oh, that would have been sweet on your 1,000th game to just seal it with an empty netter.
Absolutely. But Mike, it has been quite a phenomenon for us to watch other teams do what the Avalanche just last year started doing, almost like stunning. Remember the first couple of times that Patrick did it? We're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was looking for the referee to have his hand up to call the penalty or something. I mean, it'd be 2:52 or whatever. And now, I mean, it's just common practice around the league. And I think, you know, the players have embraced it so much, and you know, we've seen the Avalanche just do, I mean, so many unbelievable things with a 6-on-5, 6-on-4, whatever the situation is late in games.
Boy, that goal by Landeskog just looming larger and larger. Here's the story. 3-1 lead for Colorado. 1:44 left to go. The goaltender Fleury on the bench. Extra skater. They got Crosby and Malkin out there. Letang is set up back along the boards of the blue line. Crosby, left-handed shot, trying to win it, and he does. He got it back to the point for Letang. He finds Crosby. Back to Letang. Shot through traffic. Save. Hornquist batted at it. And it goes to the corner. Perron. Back to the point for Letang. He shoots, didn't get it through. Kunitz shoots. Nice save by Varlamov. Back up for Kunitz. His pass. Broken up. Pass up by Tanguay. Oh, and he handed off to Mitchell. Backhanded in.
He wasn't going to do that again. He wasn't going to ice the puck and force their line to stay on the ice again. Good play by Tanguay.
Malkin. The puck in. Held in at the blue line. Pass for Hornquist. He shoots. Blocked. Lifted out by McKinnon. Not deep enough for an icing call. We're down to the last minute of play. Letang hounded by O'Reilly. Gave up the puck. Landeskog on it. Finally comes free for winning. To Letang. Fires the pass across. Shot in wide of the net. 35 seconds to go in the game. Avalanche on their way to beating Pittsburgh. No icing. Martin pushes it up the boards. 25 seconds to go in this one. Crosby. DeComo. Dropped it for Sutter. He shoots. Save made by Varlamov. Crosby to Martin. Runs into Caron. Run with the puck. On the backhand. He does. Out to center ice. And the Avalanche fans sharing as they are going to win this game. Nathan MacKinnon will get the game-winning goal. McGinley got his 20th of the season. Landeskog with a huge goal for the Avalanche in the third to really take some of that pressure off and win it for the Avalanche. Nice win tonight for Colorado.
Man, nice win for Alex Tanguay. It's always fun to talk about good things when you win. It's tough to talk about individual things when your team's lost the game. Players just hate that. But for Alex Tanguay, he'll be able to celebrate 1,000th game with a win here tonight against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
It's the Avs to 67 points with 18 games remaining. Celebration at mid-ice for the Avs, who get their 17th win of the season at home and go to 1-0-1 against Pittsburgh this season for Varlamov. That's his 20th win of the season for Semyon Varlamov.
The Avalanche against the high-powered Pittsburgh Penguins. You mentioned it a couple times. One goal. One goal against in 2 games.
Yep, in regulation.
In regulation.
Well, the Avs headed off. Varlamov followed off the ice by Stewart. And let's listen in to the announcement of tonight's 3 stars selection.
Time now for tonight's 3 stars of the game as selected by Mark Mosher of Altitude Radio. Tonight's 3rd star from the Avalanche, picking up point number 37 on the season, number 90, Ryan O'Reilly. Tonight's 2nd star, netting his 14th goal of the season, number 29, Nathan MacKinnon. And tonight's 1st star from the Avalanche with a goal and 2 assists, number 92, Captain Gabriel Landeskog. And our number 1 star is with Julie Brahman.
Gabe, no doubt a huge win for your team. You guys have given up only 1 goal against Pittsburgh in 2 games. This is a very good Penguins team. What were the keys tonight?
Well, I think Varley, as usual, standing on his head and being as calm as he always is back there. But other than that, I think our D were doing a good job blocking shots, and that was a big key.
You had a goal and 2 assists. Tell me about your night. What went right?
I don't know. I mean, I think our line's been playing well as of lately, and we've been working hard, and it's good to see the hard work paying off.
How much can you use this win to move forward? This is a Pittsburgh team that was vying for this postseason push. This team can also score, and you held them tonight.
Well, I think for us, it's a matter of, going out here every night and trying to win hockey games. We know that we got a lot of games to win here, and we're going to go balls out all the way.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you.
That was Gabe Landeskog. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Julie. Final score tonight. The Avalanche beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-1. Avs are back on the ice Saturday in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. We start at 4:30 with our coverage. Now let's get you to the studio. You don't want to miss anything. Stay tuned for the AutoNation Toyota Locker Room Report.